Arrow Season 5, Episode 18, Disbanded. Really enjoyed this episode. Hard to kind of beat the last episode. I think the one, just Oliver going through it he went through in the last episode was just a really great episode to watch. This one I still really enjoyed, and it also really, changed things up a bit for the future of the series, specifically for what they're going to do between Oliver and Anatoly. And considering this entire season as far as the flashbacks being him in Russia, and it actually seemed like it was a bigger focus than it's ever been, his relationship with the person that he was with, outside of when he was on the island and there were only 3 people to survive with. This was the only time it was just really, really big, and I really enjoyed that. So it was great to see how things have played out over the flashbacks in this season. I'm very curious where they're headed, because it seemed like by the end of this episode, seemingly those were the end of the flashbacks of him in Russia. And I know, of course, we're getting close, we're fairly close to the season finale, but we aren't there yet. And of course, like I think everyone was expecting, the flashbacks typically coincide with the season finale. If he's going to leave a certain location, it doesn't happen until the very end of the season finale, if it's, as far as the flashbacks go. So for him to have done that in this episode, or at least seemingly, because he says, it's my last 2 days and stuff, I don't know how they could possibly, stretch out his last 2 days for over, 5 episodes, unless they really, really just cut everything up. But I don't know, maybe we'll find out that in the past, the stuff with Kovar, we'll get to see those flashbacks. Maybe he came back to life in the past. I instantly assumed with him coming back to life that we'd see him in the present. But maybe it did happen in the past. I feel like that won't happen just because, for one, although Dolph Lundgren isn't nearly as famous as he was when he was, Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, he's still pretty famous, and he's a great actor as well, and he is a great character to have as a strong villain. So, personally speaking, I would hope that they save him for next season or something, because with Oliver and Anatoly's relationship kind of falling apart officially in this episode, I was like, that really sucks. Anatoly's a really cool character. I really like him, and he's funny, but he's also just kind of awesome. And to see them, their relationship officially kind of tear apart, I was like, that really sucks. But if anything can bring 2 people back together, it's a former villain who should have been dead, and he gets resurrected, and he starts causing trouble for everybody all over again. So I wouldn't be surprised if they saved him for next season, and that's how they bring Anatoly back and they maintain a relationship, although even that would be a struggle and a bit of a stretch, of course, because of what plays out in this episode. So, of course, going through, the actual story of it, we have Oliver. He's completely given up. He disbands the team, although they don't really disband because they're superheroes and they can still do whatever they want. So they keep things going, and they find out that Anatoly has come back into town, and he's stealing medicine in order to make it into a profitable drug back home for him. And of course, if Anatoly's in the town, that means Oliver brought him there. And the plan for that was Anatoly kills Adrian, and Oliver allows him to steal this medicine in order to make a profitable drug for the city. So that was pretty interesting, and I love the dynamic. First off, Diggle, amazing in this episode. It's every once in a while they let Diggle just have some really epic, emotional moments, and this is definitely one of those episodes. Specifically when they're at Diggle's place, and he's like, I'm not gonna leave you. That's just not gonna happen. I'm your brother and stuff like that. Great scene. That's probably my favorite scene in the whole episode, honestly, just because it was finally. It's not that he never gets it. It just seems to be pretty rare, and technically it was a couple episodes back, but that was just pure rage. We've seen everyone in this show just snap and go, angry emotion. This was I care about you sort of emotion, and he was really serious about it. And he was kind of angry too, because Oliver was kind of effing up a little bit. I'm definitely on Diggle's side on this one. But it was really good. Of course, it was well acted, but it was just a great showcase for why Diggle is the best character in the entire series. So that was a really great sequence, but just the whole dynamic of this episode with, of course, Adrian, still being at City Hall, and then it's we have to put you in witness protection and stuff like that. And so the whole plan is for Oliver to let Anatoly kill him, but the team won't let that happen because Diggle believes that Oliver will regret it. He's like, yeah, he's down in the dumps right now, but he'll realize that he needs to be the vigilante. He needs to be Green Arrow, and he needs this team behind him. So we aren't going to stop Anatoly from killing Chase. And that's what happens, and they also stop Anatoly from stealing their drugs. Anatoly and Oliver end up having their final, or seemingly final confrontation with each other for a while, maybe for the rest of the season, but Anatoly didn't die. Anatoly's coming back. So, they have that moment where, they're separated. Oliver decides, and I kind of like this idea. I'm curious how they're going to do it. But Oliver decides that he's not ready to truly wear the mantle of Green Arrow, but he will still be a part of the team. So he just had like the black mask on in this episode and just like a jacket. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, is that what we're going to see? Is he not even going to use the bow and arrow? Which I don't think he will, because that's definitely a part of his arrow persona, is him using a bow and arrow. So I'm very excited to see how they kind of change up the dynamics of the combat and things like that, where maybe he'll use guns. I don't believe he used one in this episode until he was in that spot where he actually had to fight against Anatoly's men. But like when he first went in, which was a really cool sequence, when he like slid on the ground and like flipped that guy, and he basically like spun on his back like a turtle to get up. I was like, that was actually kind of cool. It's just a little unique bit of combat. So I really enjoyed what they did with that ending segment where, throughout the whole episode, the team was trying to rally behind Oliver and tell him, like, you don't need to do this. And at the same time, they're trying to figure out how in the world do we find Adrian Chase. Naturally, that leads to Felicity's story in this episode, which is her working with Helix, which apparently turns her into like a pseudo-villain in the next episode. We knew it was going to blow up. I'm hoping it's at least done well, because personally from the promo I thought it was a little stupid. I was like, oh, she's arguing with Oliver over her going in to do something that Oliver thinks is really wrong, and that could easily play out in a boring, kind of, we've seen it, especially between Oliver and Felicity, sort of drama type of scenario, but at the same time with it being this entire organization, also an organization that knows their secrets. We officially found that out in this episode. Like, of course they know their secrets. I figured that, but they actually kind of put it out there like, yeah, so of course we know who all of you are. So it could easily change that dynamic, and it does make it a bit more intense. So I'm hoping it goes that route where it's like, maybe the team has to back off, like they want to keep fighting it, but all of their information would get put out there if they keep messing with Helix. So I kind of hope it plays that way, where maybe these good guys don't really win against these hacker good guys, depending on what they're doing. It's not super specific. It could be like they think they're doing good, and it's actually like from an objective standpoint, it's like just super illegal and not helping anybody. But we'll see what they end up doing in this next episode. But she ends up getting help from them. Curtis ends up finding her because he kind of tracks her down because he knows that she's dealing with Helix. And so they work together. They use the scrambler. They get the evidence that they need for Adrian. And of course, this is right as he's signing this document with any normal person, no big deal. But of course, it's him or any of the other main characters. Yeah, he has a pen. He could kill probably like 5 people with that thing. So of course, he's signing this thing away. And the dude's phone vibrates. And so, of course, nothing's happening. There's no dialogue or anything behind him. And he just looks up like, it's time to kill some people. And they stand up. The first dude stands up behind him. I thought he was going to, like, run at him. And he just launched the pin, like, straight into his eye. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure he wasn't near him. But he may have stabbed him or he may have thrown him. But either way, of course, he takes out both those guys. And he ends up escaping. And okay, honestly, this was a really gruesome, wasn't gruesome, but it was a pretty intense scene after he, like, I'm pretty sure he did throw the pin. So the first guy is, like, messed up because he got hit in the eye, so he kind of passes out, or he dies instantly, but I don't know, because Adrian kept stabbing him after that, so, like, maybe he wasn't officially dead. But the second guy, either way, that was visually a great shot, because him choking him over his neck, and then the wound, like, more and more blood, like, pouring out. That was visually a really great shot, and I was like, I just appreciate how that looked. It made it very intense because he has this really serious wound, and he's choking the crap out of this guy, and he already had a little bloody spot, and then it's just more and more blood is like pouring down, his side and back. And I was like, visually, that is a phenomenal shot. So I really love just the way they pulled off that sequence. It made it insanely intense, because we've seen this guy kill a bunch of people, and it's like, of course, he's as good as Oliver, so, no big deal if he takes some people out. But that was just a creative way to do it. Like, we've seen Oliver choke people. I'm pretty sure we've seen Adrian choke people before. So it wasn't something new. It was just a new way to do it. And I was like, that visually, like I said, I just thought that was really well done. And then, of course, he ends up stealing the car. And he drives down the road. Cops are all flying. They're coming right past him. And they just don't realize that he's in the car. And then they start playing the music. I forgot what song they played, but he just drives down the road. So I don't know if he's going back to the city, or if he's like, hey, I'm done. Like, I did what I wanted to do. I was going to be in witness protection, which really would have ended the game. but now, they're on the hunt for me. Maybe he will try to kill Oliver now, or maybe he won't. But I am very curious how they're going to kind of conclude his storyline now that he's on the run and everyone knows that he is actually guilty. They have the evidence they need. They've shown it to CCPD or SCPD. So I'm looking forward to where they take his character, because I thought it was a great way to end it. He's busted. Anatoly and Oliver aren't friends anymore. And who knows where the heck we're headed in the flashbacks, unless, like I said, they somehow stretch 2 days, or I guess 1 day really, because they spent one of the full days Oliver and Anatoly working to get the medicine for those kids. So I don't know, we'll see what happens there, but there is some good stuff in this episode for sure. I think not all episodes can be as intense as the last one was, but I think this was definitely a good follow-up, and especially what they did with Oliver and Anatoly again, and how they both have changed over time, like how Oliver was so different and he was convincing himself who he was in the past, and Anatoly knew it. Anatoly also knew who he would become without Oliver to kind of be there, for checks and balances. Like, they kind of needed each other to balance each other out, except Oliver ultimately still ended up going on to be a hero, and Anatoly kind of went down the path of somewhat becoming a villain, to the point of stealing medicine to create drugs to make more money. So really interesting how they did that. In the conversation they had, where Anatoly says, like, I knew, I told you what I would become without you there to kind of help me out. And I just thought that was really cool. I like the way they did that. And he's still somewhat the same, but as a businessman, as far as the Bratva, he's a different person than he was in the flashbacks. And I just like that idea, and we really get to see that compared to some other episodes. Like the last time when they were in Russia, I was like, okay, yeah, he had him do a mission, but that wasn't nearly as big of a deal as, like, they're stealing medicine literally just to make a powerful drug that people will get hooked on so that they can make more money. Like, that's a totally different situation than I need you to go, like, beat up some people or even kill somebody. It was different than, like, almost infecting an entire country, possibly. So it was cool the way that they did that, for sure. Very excited for where they're headed. We'll see what happens in this next one, because I know with it having a focus, at least the promo was, like, all focused on, it's like, an old friend, a new enemy, or something like that. So it was just interesting. I was like, okay, clearly the episode is really going to focus on Felicity and what she's doing with Helix, and of course that's kind of rising to the top as an issue. But it just makes me wonder, like, how much of Chase are we going to get in this next episode? What clues are they going to give us? Where are we headed? So certainly looking forward to this next one. But naturally, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts were. And I definitely want to know where you guys think they're headed with Adrian Chase. I mean, he's officially on the run. Everyone knows that he's a bad guy now. Is he going to go to Talia? I mean, how could he even get out of the country, if that were the case? So there are a lot of elements as to what he might do to maybe switch up the plan. We still don't know what his deal is. We still have Evelyn kind of in the background. Talia is, I guess she's technically in the country. We don't know that she left, so she could easily still be in the country, even in the city, really. But I'm just curious. There are two other elements to the Adrian Chase story. We have two other characters that both want revenge on Oliver for everything that he did. So there's just like, what are they doing? Where are they at now? Did they just walk away since they succeeded and caused Oliver to quit? There's just so many elements to it, so many questions. We'd love to know your theories on where you guys think it's headed, though. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.